Good morning and welcome back to the Lammin Podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Lammin. Today we are talking about the law of exception. As an attorney, business owner, and candidate for public office, I believe in the rule of law. But as a student of history, I know the most dangerous phrase in any language is, but it's legal. Today on the podcast, we're doing a deep dive into the architecture of enforcement. We're comparing the current Trump administration's use of military deployment and alien enemy status to the very specific legal steps taken in 1933 Germany. This isn't about feelings, it's about the statutes, the decrees, and the ramifications for our republic. 1933, the death of due process. So if you recall, there was a fire at the Reichstag by the Nazi Party in February of 1933. The party didn't stage a coup, they staged a legal pivot. After the Reichstag fire, they pushed through the Reichstag Fire Decree. In the legal details, this decree suspended Articles 114, 115, 117, 118, 123, 124, and 153 of the Weimar Constitution, the previous government. That meant no more privacy of mail, so the government could go into your mail, no more right of assembly, cannot get together, and most importantly, no more protection against arbitrary arrest. So now they can arrest anyone they wanted. The ramifications, it created protective custody. The SS didn't need a judge's signature to take you. They just needed an administrative necessity. That's what they would say, administrative necessity. Within weeks, the first camp at Dachau opened not as a death camp, but as a place for enemies of the state who were being held without trial. That was the purpose of a concentration camp. The Enabling Act. A month later, they passed the Enabling Act, which allowed the executive, i.e. Adolf Hitler, to pass laws that violated the Constitution without even consulting Parliament. The law became whatever the leader said it was, and that's what was going on to give Adolf Hitler absolute power. Now, 2025 to 2026, the Invasion Clause. Now, look at our current legal landscape. The administration has invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1789. The legal detail. This is a wartime statute meant for declared wars or predatory incursions. By labeling civilian migration as an invasion, the executive is attempting to bypass the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act entirely. The parallel, just like the 1933 decree, the Alien Enemies Act allows for summary apprehension and removal without a hearing before an immigration judge. So they're taking full control and power beyond the law. The courts. In 2025, we saw a U.S. appeals court judge, Patricia Millett, point out a shocking irony. Actual captured Nazis in the 1940s were afforded more procedural rights under this act than the families being rounded up in our neighborhoods today. When we allow invasion to be a metaphor instead of a military fact, we hand the president the power to suspend the Bill of Rights for anyone he labels an enemy. The logistics, the slammer economy. Operationally, the parallels are chilling. The SS merged the police with a paramilitary force. Today, we see the militarization of ICE agents in tactical gear using high-altitude surveillance and the National Guard to carry out civil enforcement. The detention industry. We're seeing billions poured into sites like the Speedway Slammer and then the one in Florida. As a business owner, I track the money. This is a $45 billion detention economy. Ramifications. When you build a system designed for a state of exception, it doesn't just go away. In Germany, these temporary measures became the permanent apparatus of the state. Once you build the camps and train the guards to ignore the courts, you change the DNA of your government. The economic fallout, a business perspective. Let's talk shop. As someone who operates in the private sector, I see the immediate self-inflicted wounds. The German case, when the Nazis purged the civil service and industry of non-Aryans, mostly Jews, and others, they lost their best scientists, doctors, and laborers. It was an economic drain they tried to fix with slave labor. The U.S. case, and of course, it destroyed they put all their money and economy into the war effort, and then they lost and were totally destroyed. The U.S. case, right now, we're looking at a projected 2.6 to 6.2% hit to the U.S. GDP because of all of this action against these minorities, whether legal or not, but most of them are critical to our economy. There are some criminals. In Maryland, our construction and agriculture sectors are already feeling the chill. When you remove 1.5 million construction workers and nearly 500,000 agricultural workers without due process, you are raising the cost of every house built and every meal served in this country. Mass deportation isn't just a social issue, it's a direct attack on the American economy. In closing, the duty of the bar. History tells us that once the law becomes a weapon for the executive to bypass the judiciary, the republic is already in a state of collapse. As an attorney, my duty is to the Constitution, not a policy. If we accept the suspension of due process for one group today, we have no legal standing to complain when it's used against us tomorrow. I'm Moshe Lemon. This is the Lemon Podcast. Let's keep the law as a shield, not a sword. If you found this analysis helpful, share it with someone who values the rule of law. Links to the court transcripts and 1798 Act are in the descriptions below. And, we have to be careful because ICE is out here and they're hurting everyone, citizens, non-citizens. So the best thing we can do is vote them out this year and then vote the president out in 2028 and get back to the rule of law. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.